Good morning, Year Six. I hope you're well and are looking forward to continuing with your story today within English and completing it. Before we get into the writing element of our lesson, or the writing of your story, we're just going to look at the skill of how we'd effectively use dialogue as a way of describing events within the story and describing interactions between characters within the story. Okay, guys, so just to be successful today, we will need to understand how to punctuate direct speech correctly. We need to confirm what certain speech verbs mean so that we're able to select the correct speech verbs used at the correct time. We need to identify which skills we should use to continue our story. So, which skills, which elements we're going to try and include within our piece of writing. We'll need to support me or you'll need to support me in helping me continue my story, and then you'll need to complete your own story. Okay. So we've got those 5 elements to do today. We've got about 15 minutes to do the video, and then you're going to do some lovely writing, I'm sure. And I know, Manny, you said you want to type yours. I appreciate that. If you're desperate, guys, to type it because it's a big piece of writing, that's fine. But I would like some handwritten work as well, because it's always good to get the mind working and link to handwritten work. So maybe, Imani, the first element or the editing part tomorrow, you can do in handwriting. If you want to write the whole story as a typewritten version, that's fine as well. Okay, so try and mix it up a little bit. Okay, that's right. So here, we've got some different pieces of dialogue. One of them is correctly punctuated. Okay, so which one's correctly punctuated? So this character saying, honestly, Chiddy, it was an absolute nightmare. So once she said, honestly, Chiddy, it was an absolute nightmare, how should that be recorded? As the first one, as the second one, or as the third one? Let's see which one is correct. Computer's not working. Yep. So the second one is correct. The first one isn't correct because it's got a lowercase letter at the beginning of honestly, whereas it should be a capital letter. And the second one is correct because it ends in an exclamation mark, whereas the third one, so C, ends in a question mark, the direct speech, but it's not a question, it's a statement or an exclamation. It's saying that something is an absolute nightmare. It's not asking whether it was or not. Second one here, see which of these is the odd one out. Okay, so we've got the policeman shouted loudly at the criminal, stop right there. The little girl whispered shyly, how can I become an explorer like you? Third one, when would you like to get together to do the project work? Asked Tahani. And fourth one, can you help me with my homework, please, Simone? Asked Sean pleadingly. I like pleadingly in that adverb. Mr. Spring pleadingly asked Year 6 to make sure they got their homework in on time. Or Year 6 pleadingly asked Mr. Spring if he'd let them go out to playtime. Okay, guys, any spotters? Anybody spot which one's the wrong one? Well done for all shouting. C. Yes, C is incorrect. Why is it incorrect? Look at C now. See what the mistake is. Natan, can you spot it? Talia, can you spot it? Talia spotted the inverted commas should not be after Tahani. They should be after the question mark within that. So it's wrapping around. We talked about it previously, hugging the piece of direct speech. This has actually gone over or gone beyond the direct speech and gone to the reporting clause. Right, you've got a little piece of writing to do here, and this, Imani, is maybe where you could do it in handwriting and then do the story as the typewritten version. So Lucy whispered shyly, I really liked that. She continued to whisper, I wonder if I could ever do that. Sorry, I forgot to whisper at the beginning. Okay, guys, now remembering within our direct speech that we need to ensure that Lucy's name is correctly punctuated. So it's a capital letter. Inverted commas where they should be. We've got an exclamation mark in this writing at the moment. Should there be an exclamation mark? If it's whispering. Whisper, where should be the comma before the inverted commas? And inverted commas are needed to close the speech. So remember that hug of those inverted commas around the piece of direct speech. So there's some elements missing. What your first job to do is to rewrite this correctly. Okay, that's your first job on your sheets today to do. Now, when you're doing it, you might start thinking about speech verbs. Now, in that previous piece of writing, we've got whisper. And we can notice there's links between, so there's synonymous verbs. And what I'd like you to start doing is using this variety of verbs more and more in your writing when you're describing dialogue. So if you got cried at one point, that's synonymous really with holler or yelled. Okay, they're similar verbs in terms of the loudness, the volume of the speaker. You've got grumble, we know a character's not very happy, so they might also be moaning. Okay, we could also say they're mumbling. Now, mumbling doesn't always mean that somebody's unhappy. However, if somebody's a bit fed up, they tend to mumble then, don't they? Okay, rather than hollering, I'm fed up, you normally mumble a little because you're a little bit fiddle. Okay, and then also we might have somebody telling us some information, so somebody announcing something that's synonymous with proclaiming. And gripe is another one I just spotted, which could be synonymous with somebody grumbling. Okay, you're griping about this, griping about that. Now, there's not necessarily a task for you to do this. You could highlight the ones that are synonymous, like I've done here. But really, this is on your resource today. So when you're doing your writing, you've got that array, that variety of speech verbs to include in your piece of writing. Okay, guys. So we're going to carry on then to complete our story today. Now, if I look at mine, first thing I need to do is look at my plan. So I've got the idea again of the dog and its sense of smell. Look at my no-show so I can see the skills, the relative clauses, the dialogue, the verbs, the adverbs that I want to include. And then I've got to look at where I'm up to so far. So this is where we got up to previously. And now we need to continue based on the plan and based on the no-show. So I need to continue based on those elements. Okay, so if I look at those elements, I'm just going to move myself up out of the way a little bit. That's where I'm carrying on from. Now, I know my next section has the cat and the pigeon complaining to the swan. Okay, so I'm thinking, please, can you get him to have a wash? Asked cat. And then I'm putting my hand by my face and I'm hitting my head against my hand because this is pretty rubbish, year six. So far, it's not great at all because I've forgotten to do some basics. I've forgotten to use inverted commas and a question mark at the end of my question. Even, Natanya, you won't believe this, I forgot to do a piece of terminal punctuation with my full stop at the end. So now I've got, please, can you get him to have a wash? Asked cat. It's a bit better. It's not brilliant, but it's a bit better. Okay, now I'm telling you how he's doing it. I'm thinking of that rich vocabulary. I'm including an adverb. Please, can you get him to have a wash? Asked cat angrily. Okay, so now we go, please, can you get him to have a wash? It's really not a pleasant request. It's an ask with anger attached to it. So that adverb's changed the speech verb a little bit. The manner of the voice, maybe even the physical way that somebody's looking at somebody's changed. Karen, I'm sure you're doing a very good asking angrily, can I have my lunch, please? Okay, you get the idea. We've got the adverb changing the way that the verb is being used in that reporting clause. We look now, we can add further to it. We can add some extra information. So rather than now just having angrily asking cat, we've got whilst holding his nose. He's making the point. Please, can you get him to have a wash? Asked cat angrily whilst holding his nose. He's making the point. It's stinky. This dog, awful, putrid smell. We don't like it at all. So we've got the idea now that writing is that bit better. Okay, we've gone from the mistakes at the beginning with the missing inverted commas and the full stops not present to now having an adverb, a verb, and we're having some extra information about the action that the character's doing while speaking. Okay, so it's getting a bit better. Now I've got a response from my character. Why me? Responded Swan angrily whilst holding my nose. And now I get my other hand, year six, and I put it against my head because again I've made a mistake. Malia, what's my mistake? Lovely job, Malia. Yeah, my mistake here is, sorry, Layla? I forgot a new speaker, new line. Obviously, new speaker needs to be on a new line. Every time there's a new character or a new speaker, we need to make a new speaker speaking, a new character speaking. We need to make sure we've gone onto a separate line to show that the dialogue is between two characters rather than the continuation of one character talking. Why me? Responded Swan. Now I like what responded because I could have had just said Swan. I like responded Swan, and I like the fact he's angry. But hang on a second, angrily whilst holding his nose. I've just repeated the same thing, haven't I? Okay. That's not great. Okay. What I need to do is improve it a little bit. Why me? Responded Swan. Grumpily, a better adverb. It's a synonymous one. So, like we looked at those synonymous ones earlier, as he flapped his wings, as he flapped his wings. Now I've got a different action. And rather than having whilst at the beginning of this piece of action, I've now got as. So, changing the language, just showing that rich vocabulary that you've built up over your 7 years of primary school. Okay. So, don't just have the same thing repeated and repeated. Show that rich vocabulary here. Why me? Responded Swan grumpily as he flapped his wings. Now can I improve it even further? Could I talk about these wings with a relative clause? Could I drop in that relative clause here of as he flapped his wings, which were nearly as wide as the pond? Okay, so I've got the idea. I'm describing those wings. They're not little titchy wings. They're not little tiddlers that a robin might have. They're huge wings, which might be why the swan is a character who can magically make something emerge, make something happen. If I was a character that didn't have such big, flat, happy wings, maybe I wouldn't be able to do that as well. Okay, why me? Responded Swan grumpily as he flapped his wings, which were nearly as wide as the pond. Where I've got swan there, I don't have a determiner of the, and that's due to the fact that these characters, the reason they've got capital letters, are just named by the being they are. If I was a character in it, I might be man or I might be human, but either one would start with a capital letter. Okay, so the name of the character is the name of the species that they are part of. Okay, now Pigeon then moves towards Swan, asking, please, can you get him to have a wash? Okay, a few different bits here. I don't open with my direct speech. Here, my reporting clause is preceding my direct speech. Pigeon moved towards Swan, asking, please, can you get him to have a wash? Can I improve it further? I like the fact that I'm not always starting with the direct speech and I was starting with the reporting clause, but I'm not sure this is my best yet because I'm having a look at it and I'm thinking, could I change moved? Could I alter? Well, yeah, I've changed it to swoop. That's a bit better, isn't it? Because it's a pigeon. He's not going to move. He's swooping. Okay. Could I change? Asking, or could I change how he's swooping? Is he swooping delicately? Is he swooping angrily? Is he swooping calmly? How's he swooping? Quickly. Okay, I like it. I like an adverb like so. Quickly, pigeon swoop towards swan. Ask. I put it somewhere else. Pigeon quietly. So it doesn't always need to start in the sentence. Different options here. Asking. There is still an error, isn't there? Because I should have put a capital letter for Swan. So well done for spotting that, Hanya. Okay, so now I've got quickly pigeon swoop towards Swan with my error where it should be a capital letter. Asking, please, can you get him to have a wash? Okay, my dialogue's continuing as I carry on my story now. Okay. Thinking that could I include more information here rather than asking, could I say pleading? Because I'm really want you to stop that stench-filled dog and make him have a wash. Okay, so we're going to develop and try and include as much information in these pieces of writing as possible, but showcase your skills, showcase those relative clauses, showcase that rich vocabulary, really show off what you've got there with that verb like pleading. Okay, guys. Please, and rather than you get him to have a wash, please, surely you're able to get that wretch to clean himself. And it's a question now. Is that one of those rhetorical questions? We're putting a little bit of pressure on somebody, like we've done with our persuasive writing. So you can see how the dialogue's developing now. Now, what I'd like you to do today is, first of all, rewrite the Lucy dialogue that you've got there. Now, that's wrong at the moment. That's not just not good. That's wrong on a lot of levels. And it tells you what's wrong about it on underneath it. Now, for rewriting that, if you just do that on a separate piece of paper, and you might even want to improve by using some different speech verbs that we've got there with the said is dead one. So we say said is dead because it's a rhyme and it sticks in our head. That said is dead, so we won't use said anymore, or we don't use it too often. The second element of your writing, and this is the really important element, is to complete your story. Now, the reason this is such a long piece of paper, basically, is your piece of writing should be long. Your whole story really should be 2 or 3 sides of A4. It should be a really concrete piece of writing where we've got the annoying animal at the beginning, and by the end of it, we've got the resolution where the animal, something's changed about their appearance or how they are, which now hopefully has a moral which teaches somebody how they should be different. Or teaches the animal how they should be different, and because of this lesson that they've been taught, their physical appearance or their attributes somehow alter. So by the end of this, I'm expecting a really good piece of writing. With that, guys, just to remind you, as you had yesterday, you've got that no-show. So just behind my head here, you've got this no-show. Okay, so remember that dialogue, remember that rich vocabulary, those relative clauses, and those adverbs. And if you're somebody who's really confident of your work, get those semicolons going, get those variety of language points in. Try and use as many pieces of figurative language, so some similes, some different types of writing that we've been showcasing this year. A really good opportunity to use all those skills. Okay, I'm really excited to see what you produce. I want to see really good quality piece of work. Like people were mentioning today in the Zoom call, so today is Wednesday when I'm recording this, Thursday when you're seeing it. Send the whole story in as one rather than just a piece of it. So maybe hold off until next week's submission of work to send it in. If you want to send it in tomorrow, or if you finish it tomorrow morning, great. So if you finish it on Thursday morning, great. But if you don't, send it in for the next round of work. I really look forward to reading those year 6. Thank you very much for your attention. See you soon.